Abigail is the author of How to Dress a Fish, which was shortlisted for the 220 International Griffin Prize for Poetry. She is a mentor for the Institute of American Indian Arts, MFA in Creative Writing, and a member of the Tangernak Native Village in Kodiak. Please join me in welcoming Abigail Chabitnoy.
Shamai, Koyana, thank you to everyone at Capilano Review for this beautiful publication. I'm so thrilled to be a part of this project and to be here tonight to hear everyone reading their work. It's been a wonderful, invigorating kind of night as I put one manuscript behind me and start to figure out what I'm doing with the fragments that have accumulated since. I'm going to just read some of the poems from the Capilano Review that I'm hoping will be part of my second collection, which is tentatively titled In the Current Where Drowning is Beautiful. Along those themes of revisioning, this work is really interested in the revisioning of narratives that both facilitate and resist violence, particularly against Indigenous women, but also against the landscape and women more broadly. So hopefully you can't hear my dogs barking out in the yard. Letter to the daughter I would have liked to have. I still wake weeping after dreams of my grandmothers. Wonder if they would like my small dog, what they would say to the cat. Don't ask me how the dog knows each time I wake, regardless of my body's tendency to set hard when I think no daughter of mine shall weep for me. Fur fills my lungs till my own breath won't. Breathing is a costly act. I wish to return to sleep. My black-haired grandma didn't want to be a bother when she felt the water rising in her lungs. My mother's mother went into the earth in her finest leopard self. I want to build a boat, a body large enough to carry us all. These days, these waters not fit for wading. This mud hungers for our living. The blood stops in my veins, aware of every other body at rest and my threat to that state of ease. I would sooner let every particle of dust, all the dirt and salty water, seal every opening. Sooner let the fluid petrify in my womb than risk awaking others. But already, achnat kutmi etut, imak quintut, we, the break in time. I also just want to say how thrilled I am to be in an issue with Tanya, Lucan Linklater, and her poem, especially referencing the Alutiiq language, was really amazing to see that in this issue as well. It's not something you see very often. When you say the deer swept out to sea was saved, to amass, to deposit, to heap, to hoard, to invest, a hill, to lay aside, to lay away, to keep, to deliver, to take, to economize, to redeem, to tender. Ayakuk echte ket chumi. A marginal propensity to save, a neck, possibly an egg. A stitch in time saves 9. To snatch, one requires the ark. Otherwise, a flotation device, a Noah. A people saved is a land earned, a reserve. Your hide or theirs, your peach, your pinch, your stone. The key to the human race, with the help of the day god, killer, king, know it all, know it all. And this last poem is titled, I Too Grow Tired of the Plot. and is in conversation with Taija Silverman's poem In the Middle of the Myth. The wind is not a river. Someday it will end. The river or the wind, I can't recall. But if we give that same river the same rights as any person, we must have seen she is vulnerable. We must have seen the end. Meanwhile, more hot air blows, unconcerned by persons, raising the likelihood of drought, so they say. How then does the river fare? I guess it's true, women are still talking about the weather. One can't be too careful with the currents these days. Once there was a river with 134 ribbons in her hair. These days, the river gives up the ghost. Once there was a beautiful river, maligned for her long hair. These days, the river thinks she would like to be more or moored. When she left, there was no more water for drinking or for washing. When she left, there were no more fish, bones in the mud in place of ribbons. These days, the river likes to think we all wash out in the sea. The soles she kept of each shoe collected on her shores, caught in her knotted hair. She held aloft and fixed a ribbon to each small vessel. These days, the river thinks are overdue for a flood. And I'm just going to read one more poem for those of you unfamiliar with the latest shenanigans happening down here in the States. In light of this project I'm working on, women's rights continue to be threatened lately in the state of Texas in their restriction of reproductive health services to women. And so with that in mind, and as I'm actually pregnant with our first child, I have this poem for my mother written while in Texas, although a few years ago. And so thank you again for tuning in. This poem for my mother is called Baptism by Fire. After the painting Baptism by Fire, 2010, by John Patrick Cobb, displayed at the Mexic Art in Austin, Texas. In a painting in the tent, did they call it shrine? Did they call it temple? In the museum, in the part of Texas, everyone said was all right. Everyone said would be all right. I found a girl with my mother's name who brought fire down from the mountains. It would have been dark without it, don't you think? The sky burdened with gold. But for that woman-sized break of blue she passed through. She carried this fire from the gods or the heavens or the mountains in her dress, in the earth, on the ground at her feet. That is, out of her hands, it would have cast the setting in shadow. Sometimes you have to rip a hole in the sky. Sometimes you have to tear a seam into the fabric. This is my beloved mother. No one told to put the fire down. This, my beloved mother, no one cast her glow into shadow and shame. This is my beloved mother with fire in her dress. See, she prepares to ignite the fire with her magic. Koyana, thank you very much.